Minecraft consists of millions of blocks, but today I'm reducing it down to just one. I'll have to use this single block to progress through the game and build up this island, equipped with everything I need to survive. If you do go on to enjoy this adventure, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Alright, here we are in our one block. I guess the only thing to do now is to break this block and hope we don't get any immediate danger. The first few blocks I got were just dirt and logs alongside a tutorial. And it looks like we have a new friend. But it is way too crowded on this one block for the two of us. So I crafted some slabs to expand the platform, and then it was back to breaking the single block, which eventually gave me a chest with a water bucket inside, only for me to be tested by placing down a block underneath the one block gen. This way things like sand and gravel won't fall through. And not gonna lie, I got pretty excited when I got this benevolent gift, but it was anything but. And with that, the tutorial phase was over and we were on to the plains phase, which apparently has enough plants and trees to last a lifetime. Which I guess is good since I need to expand this platform to get me the heck away from this creepy pig. Much of this phase was oak logs, but eventually the one block granted me some food and plenty of dirt for a farm later on. And ew, birch. And there's another pig here. Alright, I'm just gonna scooch you over there. I'm pretty sure one block gives 2 or 3 of each animal, so I'm really gonna need to watch these guys and make sure I don't lose them. And we have a cow now too. So I grabbed some oak slabs and started on a larger expansion, this time in the shape of a perfect circle, since I don't really want to be on a floating box for the rest of my days. And although this used all of the blocks I had so far, the space this gave me was well worth it. And now I can get back to mining to see what phase 1 is all about. Ooh, pumpkins. This phase gave me a lot of different food sources, which thank gosh, because it's only a matter of time before I get hungry. Later that night, I got a sheep, more melons and pumpkins, and a chicken. Man, we basically have a full farm over here now. And the more blocks I broke, the more animals joined me, and not gonna lie, it was getting pretty loud in here. So yeah. But before I knew it, I was through with phase 1 and was ready to use all the oak wood I got to start working on another expansion. And since I have pretty big plans for my one block base, I had to start working on this immediately. I might not be the best builder, but one thing I can do is build circles. So I designed a pretty cool base with a couple of different rings that will hold all the different things I need to survive. And the first step to that was, yep, you guessed it, building a circle. And as you can see in my hotbar, I got a grass block from phase 1 that I was pretty excited about, because the first ring I'm going to be building is a dirt platform for all of my animals. So we are definitely growing grass on this thing. And after outlining my first circle in slabs, I ran out of blocks. So I crafted a wooden pickaxe to start on the underground phase, which consisted of a bunch of stone. Duh. I also got iron ore, and yes, this is on version 1.16. Anyways, I started smelting the iron so that way I could get closer to getting an iron pickaxe, and while I waited for that, I crafted an axe and got back to breaking the one block. And then I even got a mushroom that I somehow lose later, but that's besides the point. I was very excited in the moment. Okay, chicken, please move over. Thank you. And this is also around the time I got my hands on some spruce saplings that I planted down as soon as I got them, since it's the best wood hands down. And literally a minute later, as I was mining, I got my first hostile mob, which granted me a super powerful helmet. I mean, just look at this thing. And I decided to use my first iron to craft a shield just in case we get something worse spawning in. As I mined throughout the rest of the night, expecting more zombies, all that spawned in were these rabbits. And yes, I killed them, they may or may not have startled me. But hey, at least now I have something to eat other than melons. And after just a little while later, I got even more. Since one block gives you items and blocks randomly, it's pretty important to keep each item you get even if you don't think you'll need it later on. So I threw down a chest to hold everything. And don't worry, I'll learn later that you never want to put your chest this close to the block generator. But anyways, I kept mining until eventually getting visited by more zombies, which I guess is kind of fitting for the underground theme. And that's a creeper. Phew, I am not trying to deal with that right now. Once it was morning, a few of my oak trees had grown, so I chopped them down, and using all of the wood, I crafted some slabs and got back to work on the slab ring. Like I mentioned earlier, this ring is going to hold some important things like farms for animals, crops, and trees. And with the circle being outlined, I could start adding in dirt to the center, and unfortunately, I only had enough for half. Right, we're gonna need to work on that. And what's even worse is that while I was working on this, half of my animals had fallen off the edge. So I took matters into my own hands and crafted some cobblestone walls to outline this grassy area. And I'm out of cobblestone. But by now my spruce tree had grown, so I chopped that down, converted it into slabs, and made these little spruce bridges to get to the second ring of my base. So back to mining I went. I figured it was pretty close to getting to the next phase, but instead was just being slowed down by these annoying zombie troves. These things spawn in every couple of blocks. However, as I mined through the night, I got things like coal, iron, oak logs, and creepers. That's what I meant when I said don't add your chests too close to your one block. I had to learn the hard way. I guess the more I progress, the more danger I'm potentially going to be up against. Anyways, I finished up the night with some more spruce saplings and an empty map. And believe it or not, I had almost filled a double chest with blocks and items. So I needed to add in some more, and it was back to placing cobblestone walls for me. But since I was now out of cobble, I went back to the one block, which was incredibly annoying since now we were on the tundra phase. There was a bunch of snow and even gravel. Heck, I was getting every block except for stone. Anyways, I upgraded my pickaxe to iron, which must have granted me some kind of good luck since I got a dog from this. And this guy was doing nothing but looking around for sheep to eat. Sorry buddy, they all fell off the edge already. I kept mining the one block and to my surprise, some strays spawned in, meaning I was now able to get bones. So I tamed my furry friend. Ooh, first try. I think I'll call you Stray. And gotta take a selfie with him, of course. By morning, I was back to mining and this phase was pretty annoying. So I was just trying to make my way through as quickly as possible. Hold up, did he just go in the void? What the? I got a potato from the one block and planted it down, and then using my few blocks of grass I had, I bone mealed some wheat seeds that I planted right next to the potato. We now have a farm, ladies and gentlemen. And having wheat is very important since I need to be able to move these cows around. With the leftover bone meal I had, I grew some trees, specifically spruce trees, since there's no way I'm building my base with anything but. I even got one of these super mega trees that turned the ground to podzol, and this gave me a ton of logs in return. I was cutting logs well into the night when I decided to delete a snow fox from my island, and by now I had a good amount of wood, meaning I could get started on some more building. As you know, that meant it was time to build the next ring, which was going to serve as the main base. This is going to be an enclosed place where I can keep things like my chests, my bedroom, and maybe even villagers if I'm lucky. And I have to mention that the larger the circle, the harder it is to build. One mistake and I'm going to have a problem. And this one was pretty tricky even for my big brain. Once I had a full circle down, I wanted to take a break from placing blocks to work on upgrading our one block, since I am very much over the tundra phase. I mean, come on, I have more snow than I know what to do with. But the good thing about this was that I was starting to get a lot more cobblestone, a block that I certainly need for the rest of my base, and have no way of generating without a lava bucket. I was caught off guard to the first monster party that spawned in. I quickly blocked off the bridge so they couldn't get to me, and climbed on top of the wall to take them out. Thank gosh there were only a few of them here, but I have a feeling these monster parties are going to get a lot harder. I continued mining the one block through the night and made it to the next phase, where I thought it would be a good time to stop and work on something else. So I got all the dirt I had and filled in the rest of the grass layer. I even filled in the cobblestone walls in the places they were missing. And I also added in some torches throughout the place just because it was getting a little dark. Man, I really wish I had a bed. I finished off the night by chopping down any oak trees that had grown and getting some things together to start working on the main part of my base, which I wanted to build using cobblestone. Yup, we are going to need a lot more than that. So instead of stressing about how little cobblestone I have, I thought I'd get started on something actually useful around here, a mob grinder, which first started by bridging out to the perfect spot to build. Now I have to be honest here, I usually build these out of cobblestone just like everyone else, but I don't think I've ever built one out of wood. Don't worry, I use spruce so it's okay. Okay, no one saw that bucket clutch fail that almost cost me my life. Do not comment about it. But I have this farm memorized like the back of my hand, so although this took a lot of wood, it was well worth it to have a helpful grinder that'll give me bones, arrows, and gunpowder. So after it was built, I grinded until my axe broke, which meant it was time to craft some new tools. When I was back at the grinder, I got a ton of bones, so I knew I wanted to speed along the process of farming. I bone mealed crops and expanded the farm, granting me plenty of food to survive off of. The new mob grinder, however, was giving me a hard time. For some reason, troves of mobs were ending up on the island, so to ensure the safety of the base, I had to build a protective barrier. I raised up the platform and added cobblestone walls surrounding it. The main point of this was to add torches along to keep the platform lit up. The only mobs I want here are the ones actually in the farm. I also outlined the bridge with some oak slabs and continued the cobble wall design over here as well. The next morning, I was ready to start mining the new phase, which happened to be ocean themed. Well, at least this phase will give me sand for glass, and hopefully diamonds. Thank gosh I needed that. As I mined, I was getting lots of ocean themed blocks like prismarine and coral, and even mobs like squids with way too much health. I was also visited by the friendliest drowns ever today. Alright then. And I was pretty much determined to get through this phase as quickly as humanly possible, since my next goal was to get a bunch of cobblestone and I knew the ocean phase wasn't going to be very helpful. I'm still so confused as to why all the fish here have unlimited health, but anyways, out of nowhere 2 guardians spawned in, which gave me absolutely nothing for killing them. And honestly, all they did was mess up my farm anyways. But I was able to get a chest with a trident in it today and completely forgot that without enchants, it doesn't automatically come back to you. Yeah, I don't think I'll be using that. And the danger just kept coming. I was ambushed by some flopping pufferfish, and that's when I knew I needed to craft some armor. I had just enough for a single chest plate, and that was the best I could do. I equipped my shield and cautiously went back to mining. Oh, I just know something's gonna pop out of here any second now. Actually, things were surprisingly calm. I even politely walked this fish off the plank. And nothing can ever be calm in this game, can it? Yup, there was an Elder Guardian on my island. Yeah, I have no idea how to handle this. I grabbed a bow from my chest, which I used to knock the Guardian into the void. And there's another monster party here. I used the same tactic I had used the first time and blocked them off. Luckily, I still had the bow in my inventory that I used to push the mobs back through this little hole in the bottom of the bridge. Ouch, how can they still hit me? I took out all the mobs and was ready to deal with the Elder Guardian, but as I entered the ring for our fight, he had already jumped into the void. Don't worry, I wasn't missing out on anything because another one of these guys spawned in almost immediately afterwards. I even had to go get a milk bucket for my cows to get this mining fatigue effect to go away. But by this point it was morning and I spent the last bit of time mining. Yeah, we got a third Elder Guardian today, come on. After knocking him into the void, I noticed I had but 2 cows left. And since I needed somewhere to keep them, I decided to break out of the circle and build a small area to keep all of my animals. So using some oak slabs, I outlined another circle just big enough to hold my cows and filled it in with dirt. And don't worry, of course I added in an outline of cobblestone, so that way none of these guys fall into the void. If you want to see me survive in the void, however, go watch this video. I also outlined the bridge in cobblestone walls, and afterwards I got some wheat from my farm to bribe these cows over, as it started to rain. The plan is to hopefully be able to have enough cows for a bunch of steak and leather, because there's just no way I'm eating bread forever. After building Cow Island, I harvested a few trees, and by the time it was morning, I was building hopefully our last circle needed in my base. And this is pretty important since it's going to be the main part. Anyways, after building this outline, I decided I wanted to fill it in with cobblestone for the floor. This was a big mistake. Cobblestone is the one block I didn't really have, which meant I was going to have to go back to mining the 1 block generator and hope that I would get enough. And with all the danger coming from this thing, I wanted a little protection. So using some cobblestone walls, I built a small enclosure. Just in case a bunch of mobs spawn, I can escape. I had to craft some fresh tools and got back to mining. And thank gosh I had built this enclosure because just a few minutes later, we got another Elder Guardian showing up, which I was easily able to trap and take out using none other than my bow. And yes, I needed to grab another bucket of milk after this. And did you see how many mobs had spawned over there? That's crazy. And for some reason there were sheep over here now? Yeah, I have no idea. But after getting to the next phase, I went back over to the mob island and got some wool. So that way I can finally craft beds. That's right, I crafted 2. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't really pick a color, so I crafted 2. The next morning, I could start on the new 1 block phase, which was the jungle or something, but most importantly, there was a bunch of cobblestone in this phase, which meant I would be able to fill in the floor of my base perfectly. And then a parrot showed up. But unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. The worst part of this phase, however, were the vexes that spawned in. These are so annoying to deal with, but luckily I had a shield making this much easier. That's right, stay prepared kids. After going back to the block generator to farm some more cobblestone, a freaking panda bear showed up. I tried my best to scooch him to the side and got back to mining, which was giving me a bunch of new blocks. And my chests were basically bursting at the seams at this point. I am definitely gonna need to finish this base soon. On the bright side, I tried again to tame a parrot, and this time it actually worked. So I named him Kevin. And Kevin must be a good luck charm since after this, I got some diamonds. Oh yeah. Also, don't ask me where that panda bear went, I don't have an answer for you. Ah, great, another monster party. And this one couldn't actually be contained in the cobble enclosure since there were vexes all over the place. The thing with vexes is they don't have very much health, but they are really annoying to kill. Looks like I'm gonna be needing to make some changes to the center of the island. And did I really just get poisoned? It was unbelievable how many vexes spawned in this phase. So I crafted another piece of iron armor to hopefully keep me alive. I also got a bunch of mossy cobblestone, which I'll definitely be adding into the walls of my base. And one of the chests I got even gave me a music disc, which got me thinking. Yes, I literally spent an entire diamond on this jukebox just to make Kevin dance. Anyways, after this, I had plenty of cobblestone to start filling in the center. Yeah, okay, I lied when I said I had plenty, but I ran out of this stuff pretty quickly. So it was back to mining. The generator granted me a single piece of sugarcane, which I planted down, and after fighting more vexes, I had the realization that there was just no way I would be able to get enough cobblestone to build with. So instead of waiting, I decided to just use spruce. Yes, that meant taking down all of the cobblestone slabs I had just placed, and don't worry, of course, I crafted a diamond pickaxe for this. And let me just say this took way too much of my time. So while I was doing this, I was watching The Simpsons. And yes, I am a huge fan. Once all the cobblestone was gone, I could start placing a bunch of spruce saplings to fill in the floor, which probably looks better than cobblestone anyways. But just as a piece of advice, don't try to build mega structures out of cobblestone in your one block world, or else you're probably gonna end up like me. After spending the rest of the night chopping down spruce trees, thank gosh for bone meal, I crafted some slabs and finished up the brand new floor. And I'm just realizing how dark the mob grinder makes the rest of the island. I probably should have built that in the back. Anyways, it was back to mining since I still needed some cobblestone to build with. And this phase was giving me a ton of ores like iron, diamonds, and redstone. So I was happy to keep mining. Ooh, more diamondes. And it looks like we're already through the next phase. Am I mining too quickly? And listen, I don't really know the dangers that await me, so I crafted a diamond sword just in case. Ah, llamas. This is the danger, seriously? The blocks from this phase were awesome. I was getting sand, clay, diamonds, and just about everything in between. I have so many ideas for this colored terracotta in my base, I am definitely adding this in. And then I got what's probably the most useful thing out of all of the one block items and blocks. Oh, finally, yes! So I just gotta trap this guy in, and once I get a second villager, I can breed them and take over the world, metaphorically speaking. Anyways, I got back to mining, anxiously awaiting my second villager. And after a little while, oh man, I really thought that was a villager for a second. After getting a fake villager, a donkey, a pillager, and a ton more blocks, and an entire monster party, we finally got a second villager, meaning I can breed these two together. Alright Quincy, right this way my dude. Villagers and boats, check. So my next plan of business was to build up an area for the villagers to live. So I first started by adding in another layer of oak slabs so that way I could build on top, with none other than cobblestone. Yes, I know what I'm getting into, don't worry. The hope is that I'll be able to fill this in over time while at the same time building up the interior of the base. And I'm fresh out of cobblestone. Well, that didn't last long. So instead I brought over the villagers with some workbenches and trapped them in a little box. Because if I lose these guys, I am not going to be in good shape. I grabbed some wheat from my farm, crafted some bread, and dropped it in for the villagers. And in the meantime, while I waited for baby villagers, I added in some more chests, since I'm fresh out of storage. I harvested a bunch of wood for sticks to sell to my Fletchers, and even crops to sell to my farmer. And this made me my first few emeralds pretty quickly. But to speed things along, I was going to need a bigger farm, which meant another island expansion. I worked on a decent sized circle outline, filled it with dirt, and planted all the crops I could, making sure to add in water and plenty of torches. And since I was building well into the night, there were of course creepers. Yeah, not fun. But the next morning, I was back to grinding mobs for one thing and one thing only: bones. Because then I can basically grow unlimited crops and trees, and yes, we had even more creeper troubles today. So I added in a few slabs here so that way we shouldn't have any more explosions. However, now I could grow my crops and get tons of wheat, carrots, and potatoes to trade for even more emeralds. But I think selling sticks is better, so I used any bone meal I had left to grow some giant spruce trees. Okay, I'm gonna need a new axe really quick. But all these logs I got were transformed into sticks and sold to the villagers. Well, single villager. I really need some more Fletchers. And since the area around my villagers was a cramped mess, it was finally time to move them into the trading hall. This is going to be a section of the base where all my villagers are. So I built up the wall with some cobblestone, and now I should be able to move the villagers into these tiny little cells. I figured the best way to do this was to have the workbenches underneath them like this, and then I could just trap them in with trapdoors. Except this didn't really work since the cells are too close together, and I couldn't place any more trapdoors. So I had to scrap that idea and instead just moved the workbenches down a block and trapped them in with some slabs on top. Easy peasy. So using the last two villagers on hand, I knew I needed to make them librarians. I was going for efficiency and protection trades. And gosh, villagers are so annoying to work with. I spent quite a lot of time just placing lecterns over and over again. But trust me, it is not fun being in a small enclosed place with 2 villagers and an iron golem. Nonetheless, after placing and breaking the lectern, we finally got a half decent trade that I decided to keep. But we still need a good protection or even a sharpness trade with this other guy. So I was back to placing and breaking the lecterns again. Ooh, Proud 4, yes. Let me go get my emeralds. And once I had 2 trades I was liking, I packed the villagers away in their cells because we have a bit of a roadblock. See, I can't actually apply the enchants because I don't have enough iron for an anvil. I have never been this poor in Minecraft, good lord. So I got some stuff together to build an iron farm. I had everything I need, villagers, blocks, water. I even built a perfect little platform for it. Well, as you know, something always has to go wrong. I completely forgot I didn't have a lava bucket, meaning there's no way for the golems to burn, and this farm isn't possible. I mean, I could probably do a dropper chamber, but iron golems have a lot of health, so it wouldn't really be practical, which meant I was back to the drawing board. I figured the only way to get either iron or a lava bucket would be to mine blocks. And I was on the tail end of the desert phase, and I don't know, the desert is hot. Why can't I get lava here? I eventually made it to the benevolent gift, and I even got these fancy XP bottles that I didn't even consider saving for later. I was perfectly content taking a break from mining to harvest some bamboo, until I found out that the next phase is the nether. And surely that has to give me lava. And not gonna lie though, I was a little intimidated. Like, what if a bunch of brutes spawn? So I grabbed my shield, a bow, and some arrows, and now please give me lava. I'm just remembering how cool these red nether bricks are. I really want to build with these. Oh, okay, there's our first few visitors. Luckily they weren't brutes, and oh my gosh, I just got an ancient debris. And I even got obsidian, which is a huge help. If I get enough of this, I'll be able to craft things like a portal and even an enchant table. No way, I just got another one of these. Also, can we talk about the mystery chest I got this phase? Like, what am I supposed to do with a piglin spawn egg? I took a little break after this to place down any cobble I got from the last phase because any progress is good progress. And after I ran out of blocks, I was also running out of storage space. So I crafted some more chests and got ready to bring all of my stuff into the main chamber of the base. I placed down some slabs and on top of those placed down a ton of chests. Now since the base is still under construction, this is just a very bare bones version of the storage room. I started moving my stuff over a little differently this time. Yup, that's right, I organized. Each chest had an item frame with a different category, meaning there is no way I'm gonna have a chest monster in this world. I guess I'm just kind of paranoid of throwing out an item that I only get one of. And after bringing over everything and putting it in its correct spot, I started on building up more of the base by placing down some of the roof, which is going to be built with, you guessed it, spruce. There is going to be no more cobblestone in this base. I already committed to the walls being cobble, and that is enough. And I didn't exactly have the frame finished, so I just outlined what I could and figured I should probably get back to my quest for lava. No, I'm trapped, get me out of here. Dang, these guys scared me. And right after this, some blazes spawned in, and oh my gosh, please don't burn down my base, that could be a problem. Yeah, I cannot wait until I can enchant my armor. Don't worry, after all the trouble these mobs put me through, I finally got what I was looking for. Cha-ching! Yeah, I think that's enough mining for now. I have more important things to do. So before I use the lava in my iron farm, I first wanted to get some cobblestone to finish up the walls of my base. Which meant, you guessed it, a cobblestone generator. I actually went AFK for a bit with a weight on my mouse to get cobble and came back to this. Ouch, my fist hurts. Anyways, this granted me a ton of cobblestone. Okay, creeper, I need you to go away, please. So immediately, I started building up my base with all the cobble I got. It's crazy how much I relied on this single lava bucket to progress, but I guess that's the challenge of OneBlock. After getting the walls finished, I could start building the roof, which meant back to placing spruce slabs. But instead of making this roof flat across, I brought each block up a slab. And although these were slabs, it still took so much wood, so I had to take some breaks to refill on wood a few times. But in the end, we now had a roof. The only bad thing to come from this was that I was now missing a librarian villager. No, what? I thought I had 5 of these guys. Yup, we're gonna have to sort that out later. I also added in a bunch of torches around here because now that there was a roof on top, it was pretty dark in here. And don't worry, I'll make this look more aesthetically pleasing later on. But for now, I'm finally ready to build this iron farm, which meant grabbing the lava from my cobblestone generator and doing something with my villagers, since I'm going to need 3 of them for this farm. So I pulled them out of their cells and placed down some beds, and after harvesting my farm, I was able to give them a bunch of bread to hopefully result in some baby villagers. And while I waited for that, I got together all the materials I needed to build the iron farm, including beds. So thank gosh I have these sheep here. And right as I was about to start building, wow, that scared me. Even as I was repairing my bridge, I was being bothered by even more creepers. Dang it, I think I need to light up the island and stop working on projects at night. But for now, I have an iron farm to build, and I was kind of lonely at this point, so I brought along Kevin with me. And from up here, my world is starting to look really cool. Anyways, word of advice, don't try to bucket clutch on top of slabs. It doesn't work. Anyways, the first part of the farm is to build this zombie chamber, so after I did that, I had to wait for it to be dark to lure a zombie up here. Which, can I get a round of applause since I got this guy on the first try? And if you're wondering why he's in a boat, I'll explain later. But for now, I needed to use pistons to push these glass blocks into place, just like this. And now this guy has no way of despawning or escaping, and I didn't even have to use a name tag. With the zombie in place, I could start building the villager chambers and enclose them in glass. And now for my least favorite part, transporting the villagers in. Hey, at least while I was busy building, these guys were busy. Well, anyways, I figured the best way to move the villagers was by workbenches. So I got all 3 in place and was ready to build a platform on top for the golems to spawn on, which basically just consisted of a cobblestone platform surrounded by walls and with water in each corner. Yes, that's a fish. Now the only part of building that I was worried about was the hopper collection system, since the whole reason I'm building this farm is because I have absolutely no iron. So I was going to have to make do with what I had, which meant standing in the literal kill chamber myself, almost burning to death. Remember, water buckets can't be placed on slabs. I eventually added in a few hoppers, and while I waited for the farm to make me enough iron, I thought I'd chop down some logs, but why aren't these growing? Maybe it's all the bamboo around here? It in fact was not the bamboo, and instead I built a very small plot of dirt extending out my island. I knew I needed wood since the second I get an anvil, I'm going to need emeralds to buy books, and the best way to do that is with sticks. So I spent a little time growing and chopping trees while my iron farm produces iron, and even decided to build a little outline for the entryways into the main ring of the base, which pretty much made the entire build look amazing. It's always the small details. Eventually I could craft the prized anvil and even put efficiency 5 on my axe. Yeah, don't ask where my diamond pickaxe is. I probably should have put mending on it. Anyways, I was ready to start making emeralds, and using all the sticks I got from earlier, this was a breeze. I just need more Fletchers, don't I? And since I'm on the nether phase, there were a bunch of blazes spawning, and of course, fireballs were shooting all across the island. I was pretty worried about the platform I was standing on burning up, so I smelted some cobblestone, crafted some stone bricks, and swapped out the floor so that way it hopefully won't go up in flames. Then I went back to mining the generator and got back-to-back ancient debris, which means I can finally craft a netherite ingot. And after celebrating, there was another monster party that almost killed me. I literally got down to 3 hearts here and the blaze was still burning up my builds. Alright, he's down there, so I think I'm just gonna block this up. Hopefully he just disappears. Yeah, that didn't last long, but don't worry, I was able to get rid of him with minimal damage to the island. And back to mining the generator. Whoa, wither skeletons. I think out of all the phases, the nether phase has given me the most mobs. I mean, there's a monster party or something spawning in every couple of blocks. The most annoying by far were the blazes and the ghasts. But I mean, look at this shot I got. That was epic. And to end off the phase, I got even more netherite. So I gathered all the ancient debris I had and smelted them down to scraps. And was almost able to craft 2 ingots, but was 1 short. So I have 1 netherite ingot to spend. I crafted a smithing table and I decided to upgrade my sword, because at this rate I'm worried that 1 block is going to spawn in a warden. I mean, it doesn't really matter anyways, I'd probably be killed in 1 shot, but still. I also wanted to craft an enchant table since I got a bunch of obsidian, but I had already used all my diamonds, so I still can't craft one. Anyways, the next phase basically had a little bit of everything, including killer bees. Whoa, why are these guys so angry? And when I say this phase is random, I meant it. I was getting all sorts of ores, slimes, and even this potion of leaping, which you already know I had to use. I was so curious on what else I could get, so I kept mining and got all sorts of stuff. I think we're gonna need more chests. But the good thing is now I can craft an enchant table, and yes, I messed up the recipe. It's been a long day. Anyways, the quickest way for me to get bookshelves was to simply purchase them from the librarians. So I bought some of those and wanted to set up my new enchant table, except my base is filled in with slabs. So I made a small area even and started on the journey to fill in a level 30 enchant table. Don't worry, this didn't take me too long, I just needed to cut down some of these mega trees for sticks and trade away. Honestly, the part of this that took the longest was waiting for these guys to refill their trades. But after a little while, I had a level 30 enchant table ready to go. And that is not the enchant I was hoping for, so using the grindstone, I pulled the enchant off and instead crafted some fresh iron armor to enchant, since I now have unlimited iron, and with some enchants this will keep me a little better protected. I actually had to grab a little bit more XP so that way I could enchant my sword, and I don't want that enchant. Oh, and I also retired my old armor set, and I just love how enchanted iron armor turns purple. After this, I realized the floor in my base was really uneven, and having the floor out of slabs makes everything harder. So I crafted some spruce slabs to fill in the entire rest of the circle, which naturally took a lot of materials, but for some reason I had all of this on hand. I also wanted to add in some decor like some red carpeting, so I got some shears and red dye, and went over to my farm where I got a bunch of wheat so I could breed my sheep and dye them red. I always see red carpet in crazy fancy builds, but I'm always too lazy to add it in. So this was probably my first time ever adding carpet into a world, but I love how it looks. I only did 4 small sections like this, since I didn't really know how to match up the shape of the hallways in this base, and at this point I didn't even have a lot of carpet to use. So I guess you could say I got really into decorating here, since I also crafted some of these lanterns and placed these in each of the hallways, and hopefully now we won't have creepers around every turn. I'm realizing now that bringing the base up a half slab makes it so mobs can spawn. So we're gonna need all the light sources we can get. Using my shears, I also harvested a ton of oak leaves and sprinkled these around the inside of my base. Coming from a very mediocre builder, this is seriously the easiest detail to add into any build. And with the last few additions, the base was really starting to pull together. But one thing I was missing was a good food source. So after harvesting all of the carrots from my farm, I brought them back to my base and crafted them into golden carrots. I literally had enough gold to craft just about an entire stack of these. And with that, I was back to mining. Phantoms, what the? Yeah, all the mobs in this world have a ton of health, so the phantoms were just kind of floating around for a while until they went up in flames. This phase is so interesting. There's really no theme to it, just zombie horses? The good thing is I was slowly getting diamonds, meaning I'm getting closer to a full set of armor. And after mining a little bit, I got cats. So I ran back to my base to grab a fishing rod, when I remembered I had this bucket of salmon. So using the single fish I had, I tamed my cat on the first try. And since now I had 3 different pets, I needed a place to keep them. So I started on building a pet section to the island. I filled this thing in with dirt, which hopefully will grow into grass blocks soon enough. Anyways, for now I added in the classic cobblestone wall that all my builds have, and grabbed some blocks to build with. The island is going to have to fit homes for my cat, dog, and my parrot Kevin. So the first build I started on is this double barn, which is going to hold my cat and dog with one in each stall. And let me just move these guys in. Don't worry, I did not forget about Kevin. I grabbed some glass panes and a couple of different plants and brought Kevin over to build him his very own aviary. This place consisted of all the things I feel like a parrot needs, including some perches for him to land on. And then using my single diamond I had, I repaired my pickaxe and went back to mining. And we got another monster party. For some reason at this point in the game, everything is so crazy that the monster parties have literal killer bees. Anyways, after this, I got a bunch of ores from the generator and eventually the benevolent gift. And this time it actually gave me a name tag. So of course I had to use it on Kevin. Oh shoot, there's silverfish here now. And apparently creepers. There were even skeleton horsemen spawning in. It's safe to say that I had no idea what the theme of this phase was. And to top it all off, a charged creeper. This scared me so much that I ran away and grabbed my bow to take this guy down, so that way I didn't have to directly deal with him. And then I was back to mining a bunch of stronghold blocks until 2 very aggressive evokers spawned in. And thank gosh I had my bow on me because I was easily able to pick them off and get some totems. I also enchanted my bow since I'm probably going to be needing this a lot. And we're going to need it because this phase is like 75% mobs. And while I was emptying my chest today, I was almost blown to smithereens by this creeper that I was not expecting. Oh my gosh, there's so many Vexes out here, no! After fighting for my absolute life with the Vexes multiple times, I got an anticlimactic benevolent gift. And was on to phase 10, which if you didn't know by now is the final phase. Anyways, I didn't really think I was ready for the dangers of this phase just yet, so I had another project I had to work on first. One of the items I got from the generator was a horse spawn egg. So I worked on setting up a pretty big area to give this guy the best life ever, even if he's trapped on an island in the sky with me. Okay, honestly, I could barely fill this place in with dirt. I had just enough. So I grabbed a bunch of wood and got started on the only suitable home for a horse. a giant wooden barn. Looking back on it, I kinda wish I had more than just one horse to add in here because this place is gigantic. After building up a giant roof, I added in some slabs and stairs for extra details, and of course some lanterns. Now all that was left to do is actually spawn this guy in, and I even had some horse armor for him. The next morning, I was on to breaking the one block again. And this time we were on to the final phase, which started giving me end blocks like endstone, purpur, and endermites of course. Whoa, I'm floating, there's gotta be a shulker around here. One of the most important things about this phase was to make sure I get enough ender pearls to get into the end. Ooh, here's our first monster party. There better not be a dragon spawning in. Actually, there were just a bunch of endermites, endermen, and a shulker that was really hard to get to. I literally had to use a water bucket to move this guy up to the surface. And we got our very first shulker shell today. Yeah, for some reason, all the shulkers after this ended up on the bottom of the platform, making it near impossible to get shells. However, I did get back to mining the generator, which had a ton of endstone and purpur, which I'll probably never build with, and then the generator let me know that the end is near, whatever that means. Oh, it's the end portal. Yeah, that would make more sense. Anyways, I had some upgrades I had to work on before I could fight the dragon, consisting of a very important armor upgrade. I crafted 2 diamond pieces and enchanted them only to get absolute trash. So I removed those enchants, got more XP, and re-enchanted. Okay, prod 3 and prod 4, not too bad. I also had to repair the iron gear I had, which was fine since it had pretty good enchants on it. But just in case I was missing out on more netherite diamonds or something else important, I had to go into the nether and find a bastion before I fight this dragon. Maybe it's just a superstition, but I felt like I had to do it. So I ran through the nether for a while until I ended up finding one, and it was pretty much covered in lava. Oh, hello brutes. Thankfully I had a bunch of arrows on me from the mob farm, which helped me get rid of the first couple brutes. And then I was able to get to the chests. Come on, netherite, please. After this, I played a game of tag with some brutes and carefully explored more of the bastion. The loot was not very good, but at least I got a single ancient debris. And I even found a bunch of gold blocks and had a game of ping pong with this ghast. Okay, I don't think I've ever had such a lack of loot in a bastion before. I am ready to go back home. After making it back to my base and organizing my items, I used the gold I got to refill on golden carrots, and then prepared myself for the dragon fight. I made sure I still had plenty of arrows, blocks, and totems, and I only needed 4 eyes of ender to get in. Thankfully, the end was pretty normal. I was worried we'd be on 1 block. Alright, let's just all pretend I didn't miss that bucket clutch, okay? Please heal, please, please, please. Alright, there we go. So of course after this I grabbed the dragon egg and made my way up to the end gateway to hopefully find an end city and get an elytra. But this place was pretty barren. I found myself searching the end for so long before having 0 luck and heading back to the overworld, and instead decided to work on getting netherite. But with the durability on my pickaxe almost broken, I was going to need a better way to mine. Yup, that's right, we're using TNT. I had a bunch of sand in my chests that I hadn't used yet, along with the unlimited amounts of gunpowder, so I was able to craft a pretty substantial amount of TNT. And with that, I was back into the nether, this time searching for ancient debris. The mining trip landed me a total of 10 ancient debris, which I immediately smelted down, and using the netherite I already had, I crafted 3 ingots. The first thing I did was upgrade my 2 pieces of diamond armor, and I wanted to upgrade my pickaxe, but first I needed diamonds to repair it. So I crafted a temporary iron pickaxe and was back to mining the generator until I could get enough diamonds to repair it. And since I was through all the phases, I was getting a bunch of randomized drops, including more monster parties. Whoa, holy mobs, there are so many of you here. I was literally fighting through an army of mobs throughout the last phase. After mining for a bit, I had enough diamonds to not only repair my pickaxe, but also upgrade it to netherite, and to seal the deal, I thought I'd get myself a mending villager since one actually spawned in earlier. So I grabbed some lecterns and trapped him in to work on getting a mending trade. Whoa, that didn't take long. Using the workbenches, I lured this guy over to the other villagers and knew I had to make some emeralds to be able to buy all the books. So I first started by harvesting my farm and trading away to the farmers. This allowed me to buy just enough mending books, which I put on my sword, pickaxe, and netherite armor pieces. After this, I grew some oak trees only to remove all the leaves and add in this super cool leaf border all around the base. And yes, having an elytra would have made this much less scary. However, once this was done, the island was looking much more dimensional. And I know I was literally just in the end, but I was really missing out on an elytra. So I made my way back over where I was swarmed by a monster party. Yeah, that confused me a little bit too. I guess it's because the generator is right above the end portal. Anyways, I grabbed some ender pearls and hopped back through the end gateway. And now all I have to do is find an end city. This is gonna be hard. Last time I was here, I went the other direction and stayed on this cluster of islands. So instead, I bridged away in hopes of finding something. Oh my gosh, thank heavens. After a few days, I finally ran my way into one. Alright, let me just go grab the elytra from the end ship. And once I got the elytra, I had no business staying in the end. So I went right back to the overworld. And the very first thing I did was craft some shulker boxes and get some armor stands to hang up all the armor I got from the end city. Because otherwise it's just going to rot in a chest somewhere. I also got plenty of diamonds so I could finish upgrading the last of my tools into diamond and enchant them. And then I was realizing I can't really use my elytra without rockets. So I grabbed some gunpowder from my mob grinder and sugarcane and was able to craft 2 stacks of rockets. Except I don't really have a renewable source of sugarcane, which means I should probably build a farm. And with day 100 approaching quickly, I was on a bit of a time crunch. I got together some spruce slabs and built out a bridge near my mob farm. And then I built a decent sized platform just like every other one I've built in this world. I would have loved to make this farm automatic, but I'm pretty low on time until it reaches day 100. So instead I started outlining a manual farm out of spruce planks and oak logs. Heck, I even had time to build a couple of layers onto this. And honestly, I love how it came out. This brings me back to the days before I learned how to use redstone. Actually, there's no redstone in this world. That's kinda crazy. And by the time I was finished building, it was day 100. So I went around looking back on everything I was able to do from a single block in this world, and ended the day by watching the sunset. If you guys enjoyed this adventure, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Also, become a channel member if you want access to the world download, and I'll see you in the next video.